morning, everybody. Hopefully you guys are safe and sound back at home and had a great night celebrating America's birthday and watching the fireworks. I did, and I posted a video of the fireworks display on my personal Instagram account, on my personal IGTV account. It's there if you follow me on there. Maybe I'll share it to my this channel on IGTV. I'll probably pop it up on YouTube. Maybe if you guys are interested, let me know. But anyhow, so yesterday a crazy thing happened. I'm going to start off by sharing this story real quick. I met somebody that recognized me from YouTube, which was kind of a crazy and surreal but humbling experience. And shout out to Gene for coming up and saying hi. Appreciate that. It was just a caught off guard moment. I was shopping in Wally World, went to electronics. Gene came up to me and was seeing if I needed help. I guess he was also trying to make sure if I was who he thought I was. And after confirming that, we talked for a little bit. I didn't shoot any vlog footage of him in it. I didn't want to get him in trouble. But next time, if he comes up to me, he's like, "Yeah, no, it's cool to be on the vlog. I'll get him in the vlog and he can say hi to you guys." But real awesome guy, real cool. And he thanked me for the videos I did on the Moto G6 Play because that's what he got. And we talked a little bit about that. But yeah, so I just wanted to share that with you. And I tweeted it out yesterday because it was just a very humbling experience for me. Anyhow, let's talk about all these videos about iOS, jumping from iOS to Android, vice versa, and like what people are saying in the videos that I feel like are biased opinions that they kind of like emphasize it as like a factual thing. Because crazy enough as is, when you talk about tech on YouTube, you have a responsibility to really put it transparently and open to people out there if something you're saying is an opinion or a fact, right? Instead of just like leaving it as a code for people to have to decipher and figure out. The reason why I say that is because jumping from iOS to Android or vice versa, it's not as seamlessly as people think it is. It's not like a handshake between the companies that makes it a smooth transition, right? You're gonna face some adversities trying to go over to a different platform. You're gonna face some issues going over, obviously. And that's just because certain things that you do on one platform is not going to be ready and available on the next one. Now, it's a little bit different, though, because Google tends to cater more to iOS. I mean, a lot of their services is on iOS. You can download, install it, and run it on iOS. Now, Google has this thing where they shoot themselves in the foot because they think that if they put, Google Plus and Hangouts and Duo on iOS, and it's more polished than it is on Android, it's going to bait people on iOS to say, hey, if the experience with these Google Services apps on iOS is really good, and obviously it's got to be that great on Android. And then they think that people are going to make the switch over, which is not, because Google doesn't put that same dedication into their applications for iOS. They don't put that same dedication into it on Android. And so when you get to Android, you're looking around like, oh my God, this is not exactly like what it was on my iPhone 7 or my iPhone 8. What happens? They go back, right? Because they had, a better experience with iOS, and the Google services that baited them to try Android run better on their rival software. So that's where Google shoots themselves in the foot. The reason why I make mention of this is because a lot of the videos that I see that talks about it, there's always one or two things that they say that, they try to emphasize the reason why you shouldn't just, you shouldn't make the switch. One of them that I saw a lot of was they were talking about FaceTiming in Duo. Oh, on iOS you can FaceTime and you can do all this and this and that, and you switch to Android. They have something similar. It's called Duo, and Duo you have to, you can do the same things, which is great. But then when your friends have iPhones, they have to download Duo in order for you. And I'm like, I stopped myself like, wait a minute, why is that even considered something to say, hey, this is why you shouldn't make the jump? You're literally going to tell people out there in the world that are watching your videos that if they're ever thinking about going to Android from iOS, they shouldn't do it, because if they do, they have something similar to FaceTime, which is Duo. However, your iPhone friends are going to have to download Duo. And it's like, what? Really? You're being courteous to the people that have iPhones, and so it's Google's fault? Okay, Google may be open about a lot of their things, right? But Apple isn't. I mean, so many people were posting up posts in the last 10 years. Well, now I'm kind of over-exaggerating. Let's call it 8 years, right? About how FaceTime and... No, not 8 years. Let's get real about it. I want to say 5. 5 years. I over-exaggerated that. point taken, if you guys can see the over exaggeration. Now, real honestly, 5 years ago, right, they started circulating columns about how FaceTime may be going to Android, how iMessenger may be going to Android, and you've never seen it come on Android, right? Now, the reason why is because Apple's not ever going to release, key features of its software to its rival company. They're just not. Apple's closed off like that. That's just the way it is. But for people to say that, that's the reason why you shouldn't jump. Well, I mean, that's Apple's fault. I mean, they had columns written about how, people that did make the jump were furious with Apple because their messages weren't coming through. People that still had iPhones would send them a text, and those text messages wouldn't get to their Android phone. Why? Because of iMessenger. The little demon in between. Messages just didn't get sent out. Now, that's not Google's fault that that's happening, right? Apple is pretty much in control of that. And so, also, that is kind of the same fear for some people that want to switch from Android to iOS. Is because if they go to iOS and they don't like it, they go back to Android, then they're going to have those messaging issues with people that were messaging them. And yeah, it's a whole big issue with that all by itself. Just what can cross over to the other side. I personally feel like, when you make statements like that, like, oh, I can go to Android, but, I can use Duo, and Duo has a great experience. However, if I wanted to video chat with one of my friends that has an iPhone, they would have to download Duo, and so that's why you shouldn't make a jump. That's stupid, all by itself. If your friends want to communicate with you, they shouldn't have a problem at all downloading Duo on their iPhone to be able to video chat with you if you switched over to Android. That shouldn't be a problem. If they choose not to, oh well, that's life. But you don't go and tell people that they can't or they shouldn't make a transition over if they're thinking about it because of that thing. Like, that thing is not a thing to really get all, butthurt about. Me personally, if I was to tell people about it, like, if you're on iOS and I'm figuring like, maybe you shouldn't switch over to Android, my whole argument point, to say that, why it would be is just a painful transition over. It's not a smooth transition over. There's no handshake in the middle between both. Both rival companies, they do their things. Google's more passive, Apple's more aggressive, and yeah, you're gonna feel the difference in between being pulled over from one side to the other. It's not really, software experience, right? Because, Android has its things, iOS has its things. They both have greatness in them. They both have kinks in their armor. So neither one of the softwares is going to be a perfect experience, but it's just what works for you as a person, individually, what works for you, what platform works for you. If being on iOS and everything is something that you've invested a lot of your time and money into, and so you feel like you might want to try Android. But know this, is that a lot of the things that you invested into, you have to put that aside and not think about it, because you're now on a new platform and you're going to have to rebuild that same type of like fluid interchange between that, within that ecosystem compared to what you had before. In closing of this video, I just want to say this, YouTubers that talk about tech have a responsibility to those people who watch their videos for information. And you've got to be really transparent, and you really got to state what is fact and what is a biased opinion. Now, I know the word biased is thrown out and considered negative, but it's not really a negative thing to say. If I tell you that I use Android and I wouldn't make the switch to iOS, and I know I'm being biased about it, I'll openly tell you I'm being biased about it, because technically I don't see anything in iOS that would make me want to try it out and switch over to it. Everything that I have with Android and what I use with Chrome OS and Google, basically in general, works for me with day-to-day life. I don't ever feel like I have to switch over to a different platform. And so that's it, guys, for this vlog. If you guys enjoyed it, let me know. Drop a like. And yes, I will talk to you guys later. Aloha.